A very good morning to Mr. Vijayan and to all our fellow classmates. So today we will be presenting the task 1 oral presentation, and the title of our presentation is the short story Crooner by Kazuo Ishiguro. So to further explain about the analysis of the parts of the story, I would like to pass the floor first to Aisha.
Okay, so firstly, we will talk about the description of context in the story Crooner. So the story is about a chance encounter between the narrator, a guitarist, and a famous singer named Tony Gardner, while the narrator is performing with a band in Venice. Tony Gardner and his wife, Lindy, are on a special trip to Venice, and the narrator recognized Tony as his mother's favorite singer. They strike up a conversation, and the Gardners invited the narrator to be a part of a romantic surprise for Lindy. So, Tony Gardner wants to serenade his wife, Lindy, in a gondola under her window with the narrator playing guitar and Tony singing some of her favorite songs. The narrator is excited and agrees to help with the plan. However, as they set out on the gondola, Tony Gardner's mood becomes somber and reflective, and he decides to change the set list to include songs like By the Time I Get to Phoenix, which hold personal significance to their relationship. So the story carries an undertone of anticipation and unspoken tension between the Gardners, and it ends as they continue their journey along the canal in the quiet Venetian night. The story explores themes of nostalgia, romantic gestures, and the complexities of long-term relationships.
Story Elements for Kids. What is a setting? By Teaching Without Frills. Story elements are the different parts of a fiction story. The setting is an important story element. Setting is the time and place of a story. It often answers the questions when and where. The time of a story may be in the past or in the future, in the daytime or at night, in the summer or winter. A story may take place in a school, in a jungle, in a big city, in the desert, or in a variety of other places. We can also use adjectives or describing words to tell about the setting, like if it's sunny, cold, bright, busy, or spooky. Thanks for watching.
Okay. So we move on to the setting for the story. Okay, so the story primarily takes place in Venice, Italy, where the main character, Janet, encounters Tony Gardner, a famous crooner. The story is set in various locations within Venice, including the canals where Janet and Mr. Gardner travel in a gondola, as well as the Piazza San Marco and the Cafe Florian. For the Piazza San Marco, Tony Gardner, the famous crooner, and Janet, the guitarist, perform together in the piazza. They entertain the passerby and tourists with their music and singing. This performance is an important part of the rising action in the story, as it leads to a deeper connection between Tony Gardner and Janet. For Cafe Florian, in the story, there's a scene set in the cafe. It is a famous cafe located in Venice Piazza San Marco. In this scene, Tony Gardner, the famous crooner, and Janet, they perform together for the cafe patrons. They play music and sing, with Janet accompanying Tony Gardner singing on the guitar. The crowd at Cafe Florian listens to their performance, and the cafe setting adds to the atmosphere of the story. As for United States, in the story, United States is not the physical setting. Instead, it serves as a significant cultural and historical backdrop to the characters and events. United States is portrayed as the home country of the famous crooner, where Tony Gardner and his wife comes to Venice for a holiday.
Story Elements for Kids. What is a character? By Teaching Without Frills. Story elements are the different parts of a fiction story. Characters are one of the most important story elements. Can you figure out the definition of a character from the following examples? A police officer can be a character. A dog might be a character. A robot can even be a character. So, what do you think the definition of character is? Characters are the people, animals, or creatures in a story. Characters can think, feel, or act. For example, a story might be about a boy and his teddy bear. Of course, the boy is a character because he's a person. If the teddy bear is just a regular toy, then it wouldn't be a character. But if the teddy bear can think, feel, move, or maybe even talk, then it would be a character in the story. So remember, characters are the people, animals, or creatures in a story who can think, feel, or act.
Okay, so in this story, we have three main characters, which are Janet, Tony Gardner, and his wife, Linda Gardner. So Janet is a skilled guitarist who plays at Cafe Florian in Venice during the music festival. He is a talented musician who has a deep admiration for Tony Gardner's music. He is respectful and reverential toward Mr. Gardner and his art. He is also insightful, empathetic, and perspective, which is evident in his understanding of Mr. Gardner's emotions and his willingness to engage in a meaningful conversation with him. Janet's roles in the story is to provide a unique perspective on Tony Gardner's life and to be a participant in the performance that serves as a turning point in the narrative. So, Mr. Tony Gardner is a famous American crooner and the primary focus of the story. He is characterized as a legendary figure in the world of music, known for his emotive singing and songs that have touched the hearts of many. So he is portrayed to be a complex character with a mix of emotion. He is a nostalgic, emotional, and vulnerable person, which contrasts with his public image as a confident and successful entertainer. As for Linda Gardner, as you all know, she is the wife of Mr. Tony Gardner. So the story portrays her as an integral part of the celebrity couple, having been married to Mr. Gardner for 27 years. And she is introduced with a sense of mystery and longing as she listens to the music being performed by her husband and Janet from the balcony of their palazzo.
Some boys kiss me, some boys hug me. I think they're okay. If they don't give me proper credit, I just walk away. They can beg and they can plead, but they can't see the light. That's right. 'Cause the boy with the cold hard cash is always Mr. Right. 'Cause we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. You know that we are living.
Okay, so now we will be moving on to the plot of this story. So, for rising action, there's a narrator's opportunity where the narrator, a guitarist, received the opportunity to perform with the renowned American crooner Mr. Gardner during the Venice Music Festival. This sets the stage for the events to come. Mr. Gardner and Lindy's relationship also have a context in the rising action, where as the story progresses, the reader is introduced to Mr. Gardner and Lindy, a celebrity couple with a long history. The rising action hints at tension in their relationship. For example, when Mr. Gardner avoids mentioning to Lindy that they are performing in the festival, it suggests a disconnect between them. This is shown when, in the story, it is stated that while performing at the piazza, Jane spotted Tony Gardner, an aging American singer whom his mother admired, in the crowd. After a short meeting of little talks and coffee, he brings his wife Lindy. After a few disputes between the married couple, Lindy takes her leave to go shopping. Next, the rising action creates a sense of anticipation and excitement as the narrator admires Mr. Gardner's music imagines performing alongside him. This sense of expectation builds as the narrator looks forward to their performance in Venice. This is when Mr. Gardner proposes that Jane accompany him while he serenades his wife from a gondola beneath their hotel window that night. Jane was pretty much honored and agreed instantly. Next, the climax of the story takes place during the gondola performance where the emotional intensity reaches its peak. The narrator, which is Jane, and Mr. Gardner perform a series of songs, including I Fall in Love Too Easily, in the gondola as they drift along the canals of Venice. Along the ride, Mr. Gardner starts sharing his opinion on the set list that he is going to play for his upcoming gondola ride for his wife. Jeanette then asks if Mrs. Gardner, which is Lindy, was expecting the event or if it was a surprise. Mr. Gardner told him it was the latter one and he was a bit worried about how she would react to it. He then proceeds to tell Jeanette more about his wife and how they got married. You have no idea. This city, the songs, it's all take me back to a special time in my life, said Mr. Gardner. Janet also asked, tell me more about the memory in here. What happened? And Mr. Gardner smiled and said, we were newlyweds in London and we had the hotel fill the bathtub with champagne. And the story goes on. Their gondola then stopped when reaching a palazzo with a third-story window as Mr. Gardner called out to his wife. He told Mrs. Gardner to just leave the window open so that she could hear them as weather was cold outside. What about Mrs. Gardner's reaction? The emotional climax occurs when Mrs. Gardner listens from their palazzo window. Her emotional response, particularly when she starts sobbing, highlights the profound impact of the music and the memories associated with it. This moment is vital because it reveals the depth of Mr. Gardner and Lindy's shared history and emotion. In the story, it's stated, they started their performance. Janet looked up in the window for Mrs. Gardner's shadow as they finished their last song. He realized something weird with the gloomy aura between them and asked what happened and why was Mrs. Gardner crying. Mr. Gardner then said that he and his wife are going to get divorced even though it clearly shows that they still love each other. This will bring us to the following action of the story. Following the emotionally charged performance, Mr. Gardner explained to the narrator, Jeanette, that he and Lindy are separating after 27 years of marriage. This explanation is a significant part of the following action as it provides insight into the reasons behind their separation. Mr. Gardner's decision to separate from his wife is influenced by his desire for a career comeback and the pursuit of a new romance with a younger woman. This demonstrates the sacrifices and changes he is willing to make in his life. His wish to make a comeback in the industry is going to cost him a lot of things, even something he loves. Mr. Gardner reflectively said, my friend, it's time for a change. We are ending our 27-year marriage. Which Janet replied, but you still love each other. Why this separation? Where Mr. Gardner replied, sometimes love isn't enough. I want her to find happiness, to experience life before it's too late. He gave examples of other musicians from his generation who are still hanging around. Looking at their lifestyle, which were changing spouses and having younger wives by their sides are more admirable than having a long-lasting married life, such as Tony and Lindy's. Even after being persuaded by Jane, Tony was very firm in his belief that both he and his wife needed to find a new life on their own. The following action also involves a discussion between the narrator and Mr. Gardner about their past, their feelings for each other, and their future plans. This conversation helps bring closure to the narrative and emphasizes the complexities of love and relationship. Okay, next.
So, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the literary devices that that has been acknowledged in the story, let us watch a short clip or live action about the rising action, the climax, and the falling action.
Mr. Gardner, the anticipation is building. This performance means a lot to you, doesn't it?
I have no idea, Jen. This city, the songs, take me back to a special time in my life.
Tell me more about that memory happened in London.
Ah, we were the newlyweds in London, and we had the hotel fill the bathtub with champagne. And then there was this magical moment.
Dancing is what to do. Dancing's what think of you. Dancing's what clears my soul. Dancing's what makes me whole. Dancing is what to do. Dancing's what think of you. Dancing's what clears my soul. Dancing's what makes me whole. Every time when I look in your eyes.
It's time, Mr. Gardner. Let's see, I fall in love too easily.
I fall in love too easily. I fall in love too fast. I fall in love terribly hard. For love to ever last. My heart should be well schooled, 'cause I've been fooled in the past. But I can fall in love so easily. I fall in love too fast.
Amidst shadows, tears do flow. In sorrow's depth, we often go. But let the dawn a new day bring. With hopeful hearts, we will once again sing.
We've touched her heart, Mr. Gardner. She's listening.
Then it's time for a change. We're ending our 27 years of marriage.
But you still love each other. Then why you must be separated?
Sometimes, Jen, love isn't enough. I want her to find happiness. I want her to experience life before it's too late.
I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Gardner. This was a big, difficult decision.
It is, Jen. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the literary devices that are found in the story. First of all is imagery. Imagery is a prominent literary device used in Kruna by Kazuo Ishiguro to create vivid mental pictures and sensory experiences for the reader. The story employs imagery to evoke the settings, emotions, and atmospheres throughout the narrative. Here are some examples of imagery in the story. First of all, setting imagery. The story uses vivid descriptions of Venice to transport readers to the canals and streets of this iconic city. For example, the mention of Venetian balconies, piazzas, and gondolas provides a clear mental image of the setting for the readers. This imagery helps readers to feel the unique ambience of Venice and its romantic, picturesque scenery. And imagery also, there is also emotional imagery where the story uses sensory details to convey the emotions of the characters. For example, when Mr. Gardner sings, his voice is described as gentle and husky. So these words create an image of his emotional depth and vulnerability. And also the song I Fall in Love Too Easily evokes a sense of melancholy and longing which is reinforced through the imagery in the lyrics of the song. And the second one is symbolism. The second literary device is symbolism, where Kruna by Ishiguro by Kazuo Ishiguro contains several instances of symbolism that enrich the narrative and contribute to its thematic depth. Musics and song lyrics, where music itself is a powerful symbol throughout the story. The lyrics of the songs performed by Mr. Gardner and the narrator carry emotional weight, reflecting the character's inner thoughts and feelings. For example, the song I Fall in Love Too Easily symbolizes Mr. Gardner and Lindy's enduring love and the complexities of their relationship. Another one is Venice, where the setting of Venice symbolizes the passage of time and the transient of nature and life, where Venice is a city with a rich history known for its timeless beauty. And in the story, it serves as a backdrop to Mr. Gardner and Lindy's marriage, which has endured for 27 years but is now coming to an end. Venice. In Venice, the setting of Venice symbolizes the passage of time and the transient nature of life, where Venice is a city with a rich history known for its timeless beauty. In the story, it serves as a backdrop to Mr. Gardner and Lindy's marriage, which has endured for 27 years, but which is now coming to an end. Venice represents both the endurance of love and the occurrence of change. Now, let's look at the other literary devices in the story, which are foreshadowing and allusion. So in foreshadowing, in Kruna by Kazuo Ishiguro, foreshadowing is used to create a sense of anticipation and to provide insight to the characters and their relationships. Mr. Gardner's marriage, early in the story, there are hints that Mr. Gardner's marriage to Lindy is not as harmonious as it may seem. His mention of rocky patches and the fact that their marriage isn't perfect foreshadows the revelation of their impending separation later in the story. And there is also Gardner's desire for a comeback, where Mr. Gardner's aspiration for a comeback as a singer foreshadows his decision to separate from Lindy. He hints that his career and personal life are at a crossroads and that changes are on the horizon. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at allusion. So, allusion in Kruna by Kazuo Ishiguro, allusion is a literary device that the author subtly uses to reference other cultural elements, works of art, or historical events. For example, Chet Baker's music. Chet Baker is the American jazz trumpeter and singer, which is alluded to when Mr. Gardner mentions that they heard Chet Baker's song I Fall in Love Too Easily on the radio during a memorable moment with Lindy. This allusion connects the story to the world of jazz and love songs, emphasizing the significance of music in the characters' lives. And there is also the iconic American crooners, where the story's title Crooner alludes to the classical American crooners of the mid 20th century who were known for their sentimental and romantic singing styles. These crooners, such as Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby, played significant role in shaping American popular music. The reference to Mr. Gardner as a crooner places him in the traditional to this iconic performance. So, ladies and gentlemen, now I pass the next part to Aisha.
Thank you, Varshan. So, we're going to talk about the theme of Kruna by Kazuo Ishiguro. So, the theme is the power of music to evoke deep emotions and memories, especially within the context of love and relationships. The story explores how music can serve as a powerful force that stirs both personal and shared emotions. Mr. Gardner's crooning and the song he performs trigger a range of feelings, leading to a climax where Mrs. Gardner's emotional reaction reveals the depth of their shared history and emotions. Next. The cultural authenticity. First, the American and Italian influence. So, Ishiguro, he authentically captures the world of American crooners and their music in the story. This is seen in the reference to the famous crooners like Frank Sinatra and Chet Baker, as the song choices and the portrayal of music's impact on the characters. For example, when Tony Gardner, the American crooner, sings I Fall in Love Too Easily, it evokes the spirit of classic American love songs. This demonstrates Ishiguro's knowledge of American music culture and the authenticity of the crooner's character. As for gondola and Venice, the use of gondola as a central element in the story is culturally authentic to Venice. Gondolas are iconic symbols of the city, and they serve as a unique and authentic backdrop for the narrative. For example, the entire story unfolds in and around a gondola, and the gondola ride itself is a symbol of the city's culture and romance, reflecting Ishiguro's attention to detail and his ability to convey cultural authenticity. Next, Italian language and references. So, Ishiguro, he incorporates Italian language and references into the story by adding its authenticity. Italian phrases, names of places, cul- cultural elements are seamlessly woven into the narrative. For example, references to Italian terms like piazza, which means public square, and palazzo, which means palace, enhance the Italian setting, making the story feel genuinely rooted in its cultural context. Lastly, social dynamics. The story subtly explores social dynamics and class distinctions. It portrays Mr. Gardner and his wife as a celebrity couple, which is a common theme in American culture, while also highlighting their relationship's complexities. It can be seen when Mr. Gardner's fame and the attention he received from the public contribute to the authenticity of the American cultural backdrop. And I'll pass to Iman.
Okay, thank you, Aisha. So now we'll move on to enhancing awareness of cultures. So, the first one is Crooner explores the experiences of an American crooner, Mr. Gardner, and his interaction in the culturally rich settings of Venice, Italy. By delving into the complexities of cross cultural relationships and the impact of music, this story highlights the potential for mutual understanding and appreciation between individuals from different cultural backgrounds. Next, I'll pass to Varsha.
Thank you, Iman. So now let's take a look at the appreciation of music as a universal language. And in crooner, music, particularly the act of crooning, is a central theme that transcends cultural and linguistic boundaries. The story portrays how Mr. Gardner's singing resonates with both locals and tourists in Venice. Even though many may not understand the English lyrics, they connect with the emotions conveyed through his music. This universal appeal of music is exemplified when Mr. Gardner and the young guitarist perform for the people in St. Mark's Square. The audience, comprising various nationalities, come together to enjoy the music, reflecting how music can unify people across cultures. And last but not least is the cultural authenticity. The story authentically portrays American and Italian cultural elements. For instance, it accurately depicts Mr. Gardner's fame as an American crooner and his desire for a comeback. It also captures the Venetian ambience, such as the gondola rides and the historical city's uniqueness. And the cultural authenticity in this story showcases the nuances and dynamics of both American and Italian cultures. Thus, this is where it encourages the readers to appreciate and respect the cultural aspects depicted and to approach cross cultural representations with sensitivity. And in essence, ladies and gentlemen, Crooner by Kazuo Ishiguro underscores the power of music as a universal language, irrespective of cultural or linguistic differences. It explores the intricate nature of relationships, which is a common human experience, regardless of one's cultural background. And that is all from us. We would like to thank you for taking your time to listen to our presentation. Thank you.